Hey everybody, I know we have about a minute here before we get started on the live. So I'm just giving everyone a moment and all the social media connections a moment to click in and notify everyone, and we will get started. Happy Wednesday to all of you, by the way, wherever you are. And excuse me kind of looking over from one camera to another, because there's, as you know, in this world of social media and the internet, we have to use like multiple cameras, multiple devices in order to get the message through to many people from different streams. So anyway, that's why I kind of look around. So I'm excited to be here with you all today. In case you don't know me, my name is Mara Salerno, and I am a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and the founder creator of ReclaimOptimalHealth.com. And I help couples resolve their infertility, maybe just like you, and get back to creating those dream families that you so deeply desire. And I utilize a functional fertility approach, which is basically functional medicine, where I utilize the idea basically that we are an interconnected being and that all parts of us, work together as one to function. And so when our fertility is not functioning properly, then what that tells us is not just that our hormones and our reproductive health is at stake, but also that there are probably some other systems in the body that are being affected. And those systems are actually playing a role on our fertility instead of what is just between our legs. Okay. So that is what I practice, and I'm having a little bit of a challenge with Instagram here. Let's see if I can get this resolved real quick. Hey there, Sita. Sita, if you can hear me, will you just let me know yes, that you can hear me and you can see me fine? Okay, let's try one more thing. And discard. And let's try this again. Okay. So again, for those of you who don't know me, I am Mara Salerno. I am a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner of ReclaimOptimalHealth.com, where I help couples just like you resolve their infertility and get back to creating those families you so deeply desire. And I just want to let you guys all know in the beginning here before we get started, because I think sometimes people just don't realize that it's available to you. But I have a free fertility starter kit that is chock full of really great, not only education and information that is helpful to you, but actually some real life action tips and a goal sheet, a food journal, all this kind of stuff that you need to really get yourself started, because it's not about perfection, right? It's just about getting started. And for those of you who have gotten started, maybe you need to refine some things so that you can get closer to your baby. So, We are going to jump in today, and I want to talk about the thyroid. So, when it comes to fertility, the thyroid actually plays a really huge role. And I think it's overlooked so much because of a couple of things. Number one is that when you go to a conventional doctor, sometimes even fertility doctors, right? They have a very specific mindset and they're very fixated on what is going on between your legs in regards to your reproduction. But your thyroid is actually in your endocrine system. Your endocrine system literally means your hormone system, right? And so it oftentimes gets missed because they are doing cherry-picked thyroid markers. What I mean by that is they might run just like one marker, maybe two, three if you're real lucky. And they try to tell you that it's not covered by insurance. And that is not the case if they fill it in a particular way. They're just not interested in it 9 times out of 10. And you need to be interested in it because it plays a pivotal role in hormone production and hormone release and hormone modulation in the body. Now, the other problem that I find with fertility is that the thyroid, or really any lab markers that are run conventionally, people or doctors, I should say, will utilize the lab range results that they just give you. And if you remember, these lab range results are based on the homogeneous population, right? And the homogeneous population, as you've probably noticed, is pretty sick. So then you get your results, and then your doctor tells you, oh, well, you're in the normal range. Nothing's wrong with your thyroid. I mean, from the cherry-picked marker that I picked, nothing's wrong. Well, in order to move you closer to, having great health and reclaiming your fertility to get to your baby, you actually have to bring your thyroid into healthy levels. Healthy levels being people who have a healthy functioning thyroid and body that makes them fertile, right? So I love the heart bubbles. Thank you. Um, so it's really important that you understand why the thyroid is getting overlooked. Now, what I find in my fertility practice is, yes, it is women oftentimes that have an overlooked thyroid, but unfortunately, guys are too. And you can either have a very overactive thyroid or an underactive thyroid. And I will tell you, 9 times out of 10, in my practice, I notice that my ladies in particular tend to have an underactive thyroid. So, but that's not to say that, there aren't people with an overactive thyroid, but that's just what I seem to see more of in my practice. Now, we really need to, when it comes to fertility, we really have to get the thyroid just perfect, honestly. And I don't like using the word perfect because you don't have to be perfect to get pregnant or stay pregnant. But the thyroid really plays such a huge role on the hormones. And if we can get it into more of an optimal place, that's the word I should use because I don't want to mess with your psychology in a negative way. We need to get it in an optimal place so that we can get the body functioning and make natural conception, holding the baby to full term, very, very possible. Okay. Now, the thing about the thyroid is that we have to look upstream as far as possible. So from a functional approach, the way that I work is that I want to help you investigate and look as far upstream to find out what is actually affecting your fertility. So with the thyroid, the first place we need to look is your gut. Okay, so if you have leaky gut, which is oftentimes caused by several things, stress, a poor diet, if you've been on pharmaceuticals or antibiotics or any of that kind of stuff, but also pathogens and food sensitivities play a humongous role on the health of your gut. So identifying that is kind of first and foremost. Then after the gut, it's the adrenals. And I talk about this a lot in my guide and just in general. And I hear people poo poo it, but this is the truth. Stress equals inflammation. So whether or not you use the word stress or you use the word inflammation, to me, they're one and the same. And stress and inflammation are the number one cause of infertility. So if we're talking about reviving your fertility, we have to remove and eradicate as many of those stressors as possible and begin to give your body some of the things it needs in order to reclaim or restore what has been damaged and revive your fertility. So when I'm talking about that, after the gut, the next major system in the body to look at is the adrenals. The adrenals get affected. And I'm going to get to the thyroid in a second again, and you'll understand. But the adrenal gland is what gets communicated to by your brain. Okay, so the brain, it's going to talk to your adrenals, and your adrenals do pump out several different hormones, but in particular, we often associate it with your cortisol hormone. And cortisol is your stress hormone, excuse me. So with cortisol, you don't want to think of it necessarily as good or bad, though it tends to be a body breaking down hormone. However, you do need to have some cortisol in your body to get up and go during the day. Okay, that is your get up and go hormone. So if you don't have enough of it, it starts to get difficult to get up and go. Now, what typically happens is twofold that I notice with some of my fertility clients is oftentimes the adrenals will start to get really taxed or they'll be on fire. And in either of those cases, it will affect the thyroid. Okay. And it will generally denote whether or not we'll see more hypothyroidism, which would be more of an underactive thyroid, or hyperthyroidism, which would be an overactive thyroid. So that is how the adrenals kind of coincide then with the thyroid. And then the thyroid affects the hormones. So in short, when we're talking about the thyroid, we're looking at gut, we're looking at the adrenals, how the adrenals then affect the thyroid, and then the thyroid, how it affects the hormones. And it may sound complicated, but actually that's the very simple truth of it. And within each of those categories, there's so much wonderful things that you can enjoy to do to help promote better health within these. But really, running a comprehensive thyroid panel is key. For those of you who watch this video or who are watching live and you want to see the functional markers, just DM me and message me that you want the functional markers, and I'm happy to send them to you so you can see the difference between the conventional ranges and the functional ranges. And you'll see there's quite a difference. So as far as the thyroid is concerned, everyone's like, okay, well, what do I do about my thyroid? Well, it depends on the severity of what's going on with your thyroid. So for, a number of people, it might be as simple as just really taking care of the gut, balancing some minerals, checking out iodine deficiencies, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes using thyroid glandulars. And for others, it may be so intense and severe that, medication may be the way to go. But there are so many options even within that avenue nowadays. So, the sky's the limit. And you can utilize this as a tool. Yes, absolutely. You want to have your baby, right? And as a side bonus, you feel better. And it's nice to feel better, I think. So, there's definitely that to consider. So far, does anybody have any questions for me regarding the thyroid, conventional markers, or even if you have any other questions about fertility that you want to ask me? I'm just going to kind of wait a moment and see if anything comes through. Okay. So, one of the things also that I wanted to say about the thyroid is that there is not a one size fits all way of taking care of this. There might be a few general things, but everyone needs to be looked at individually. And that's what I love about functional medicine and what I practice. And there's so many wonderful practitioners out there these days. But with functional medicine, we really look at what is going on in your unique body and what your unique body and self truly needs. Um, so, looking for a one size fits all approach is really challenging. Does the thyroid's ability to function change during perimenopause? It can, sure. It definitely can, because perimenopause is kind of stressful if you haven't noticed, right? And as a result, the hormones are beginning to change. They're beginning to modulate. The brain is interpreting things differently. And so, yes, it can affect your thyroid for sure. I mean, I've experienced that myself. So definitely. And perimenopause can be a tricky time for women, especially when you're wanting to conceive, because there are so many more moving parts. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't conceive successfully or hold a baby, but it is going to mean that, yes, investigation into your thyroid is a very good idea. Are there any other questions that I may have missed? Let's see here. Okay. Now, you are so welcome. So there is now there is a range when we're talking about the thyroid. Okay, so there's a range of being kind of like under functioning or over functioning here or there, just a little bit. And then there's the range where you start stepping into autoimmunity. Okay. And the thing with autoimmunity is that the immune system begins to attack your own body. So your own immune system begins to attack you. And when we're talking about infertility, well, this can play a role in many different ways because it can affect your egg quality. But where I see it show up very severely is when we're talking about holding the baby and we're talking about miscarriage and holding a baby to full term. Okay. So this is where I see it, because we know that when the baby is trying to get snuggled up against the uterine lining and implant itself and, try to become a successful pregnancy, your body is looking at this hopeful baby as, unfortunately, an invader a bit. And what will happen is, if you don't have a healthy immune response and your immune system is so overactive and so hypersensitive, that when you get into this phase, your body just wants to basically kill it off, get rid of this invader, and not recognizing, like, oh my gosh, this is a baby. Like, we want this to stay here, right? So that's where I see it becoming more problematic. However, like I said, this can also affect egg quality. It affects your hormones, et cetera, let alone how you just feel on a day-to-day basis. Now, let's go back real quick to the gut and how the gut plays a role. So we know with autoimmunity in particular that there's three legs of a stool when it comes to autoimmunity, okay? Whether we're talking about thyroid autoimmunity or any other kind of autoimmunity. But we're talking about thyroid today, so let's not get confused. I'm talking to myself. But the three legs of the stool are a leaky gut, which I mentioned before, right? We don't want a leaky gut. We want a nice gut that's intact. Your small intestine is intact so that no food particles can float in, so that no pathogens can get in, and everything is functioning as it should. The other one is a traumatic event in your life, a stressful event. So maybe it's a family member dying. Maybe for those of you experiencing secondary infertility, it's postpartum depression very severely. Maybe you were in a car accident. Maybe you've been working really long hours at this job, things like this. And then the third leg of the stool would be genetics. But genetics alone cannot cause you to drop into autoimmunity. So what I mean by that is that, the genetics are kind of like the gun, if you will, and environment and toxins and lifestyle are really the trigger. Okay. So when you're thinking about autoimmunity, you always really, really want to go back to the gut, and you want to go back to stress levels. And this includes when we're talking about the thyroid. So for those of you who end up finding out you've got maybe Hashimoto's or Graves' disease, those are the autoimmune forms of thyroid dysfunction. The first place you want to start looking is your gut, and start really taking a look at what's at the end of your fork, what you're consuming. Getting yourself on an autoimmune paleo diet, I think, is absolutely essential. Identifying your food sensitivities is absolutely essential. And honestly, even if you're not autoimmune, these are the same things that you will want to do for yourself. And making sure you're getting really great rest. And if you're not able to get good sleep and good rest, identifying what is going on with that. So that is something that I do with my clients. And if that's something that you need and you kind of like don't know where to turn, you didn't even know that this was out there, I'm here. So you are welcome to DM me anytime. If you just want to ask me some questions, that's fine. If you want to sign up for a qualifying call, that's fine. I love to hear from you. All I want to do is help serve and help you get closer to your baby and have your baby as naturally as possible with a healthy functioning body, so you can have a healthy pregnancy, have a healthy baby. Because we know when you have your health, you will have a happier life. Life is already stressful enough, right? So you want to have a lot of resilience and a lot of strength and health so that you can manage the other pieces that come along with it. So that is the thyroid gospel for the day. Does anyone have any parting questions before we close? Well, I love seeing all of the awesome messages. I love seeing all of you having wonderful wins. Remember, this is not an easy journey, okay? And I know it feels totally unfair that your body and your being are having a difficult time conceiving, but remember, you have to let go of feeling like it's your fault or that you've been cursed by God or whatever are the negative thoughts. You have to try and let them go and remind yourself to celebrate the good that's in your life. You have to remember that, because the dark areas will pull you down so fast. And nobody's perfect. You're going to have dark days. You're going to have heavy days. But I want to tell you that when you're on the other side of this journey and you've gotten through moving through all of these parts and, having your baby, and I do mean that truly, more times than not, many women are able to have their baby naturally when they move through a functional approach. Now, there's no guarantee. But when you do that, then you get to the other side and you're healthier and your baby's healthy and you guys are just so much more vibrant. So hang in there. I know it's not easy. I'm here for you if you just want to chit chat for a minute on DM. There's a whole community out there of people that are experiencing this as well. But try not to drop in to punishment or labeling yourself. That is so crucial and key to your process and helping you to turn this around. All right, I'm sending all my love to all of you. Take care, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.